दुनिया के सामने खुद को बेचारा और भारत को क्रूर दिखाने की कोशिश करने वाले इमरान खान ने संयुक्त राष्ट्र महासभा की 75वीं वर्षगांठ के समारोह पर उसका इस्तेमाल सिर्फ और सिर्फ भारत के खिलाफ दुनिया का ध्यान केंद्रित करने के लिए किया। भारत के खिलाफ उन्होंने न सिर्फ कश्मीर को लेकर जहर उगला, बल्कि भारतीय सेना, आरएसएस, बीजेपी, नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार किसी को नहीं बख्शा। यहां तक कि भारतीय सेना पर ही उल्टा सीज फायर के उल्लंघन का आरोप लगा दिया। यानी कि पाकिस्तान ने एक के बाद एक कई झूठ बोल डाले, जिसका विरोध भारतीय राजनयिक मिजितो विनोतो ने वॉकआउट करके दिया। किसी भी राष्ट्राध्यक्ष के संबोधन से पहले किसी दूसरे देश के राजनयिक का वॉकआउट कर देना उस देश का विरोध माना जाता है, जिसकी जानकारी संयुक्त राष्ट्र में भारत के स्थायी प्रतिनिधि पीआर मूर्ति ने ट्वीट करके दी और साथ ही कहा कि अब हमें पाकिस्तान को उत्तर देने के अधिकार का इंतजार रहेगा। मूर्ति ने पाकिस्तान के पीएम इमरान खान के बयान को राजनीतिक स्तर पर काफी निम्न बताया। कहा कि पाकिस्तान अपने देश में अल्पसंख्यकों पर हो रहे अत्याचार और सीमा पार आतंकवाद के खिलाफ बोलने की बजाय केवल झूठ फैलाने की कोशिश कर रहा है। पाक को इसका करारा जवाब मिलेगा। और आज पीएम मोदी खुद पाकिस्तान के पीएम इमरान खान के भारत पर लगाए गए आरोपों का जवाब देने वाले हैं। निश्चित तौर पर पाकिस्तान की सभी गलतफहमियों को दूर किया जाएगा। पाकिस्तान को, पाकिस्तान के झूठे प्रधानमंत्री को जवाब जरूर दिया जाएगा। पीएम मोदी यूएनजीए का समय तो बर्बाद नहीं करेंगे, लेकिन इमरान खान को उनकी औकात दिखाए बिना, उनकी असल सूरत का पर्दाफाश किए बिना मानेंगे भी नहीं। आपको बता दें, शुक्रवार को यूएनजीए में इमरान खान ने भारत के खिलाफ सिर्फ और सिर्फ जहर उगला और झूठे आरोप लगाए। पीएम इमरान खान ने कहा कि भारत ने कश्मीर पर अवैध तरीके से कब्जा किया हुआ है और वहीं के लोगों के मानवाधिकार का हनन कर रहा है। इमरान खान ने भारत के खिलाफ ऐसे इल्जाम लगाए और फिर संयुक्त राष्ट्र से इसके समाधान की मांग की है। पाकिस्तान के पीएम इमरान खान को भारत के प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के भाषण का इंतजार करना होगा। पीएम मोदी एक एक कर पाकिस्तान के पीएम के एक एक झूठ का पर्दाफाश करेंगे, पाकिस्तान को दुनिया के सामने बेनकाब करेंगे। आपको क्या लगता है, पीएम मोदी इमरान खान को देंगे करारा जवाब या फिर पाकिस्तान के इल्जामों को नजरअंदाज कर आगे दुनिया को बेहतर बनाने की तरफ ध्यान केंद्रित करने की कोशिश करेंगे? अपनी राय हमें कमेंट कर जरूर बताएं।
The leader of Pakistan today called for those who incite hate and violence to be outlawed. But as he went on, we were left wondering, was he referring to himself? This haul heard the incessant rant of someone who had nothing to show for himself, who had no achievements to speak of, and no reasonable suggestion to offer to the world. Instead, we saw lies, misinformation, warmongering, and malice spread through this assembly. The words used today at this great assembly by the leader of Pakistan demean the very essence of the United Nations. For a nation that is deeply buried in medievalism, it is understandable that the tenets of a modern civilized society, such as peace, dialogue, and diplomacy, are far-fetched. Allow me, Mr. President, to jog their minds a little about the stellar record of Pakistan. This is the country that brought genocide to South Asia 39 years back when it killed its own people. This is also the country that is shameless enough not to offer a sincere apology for the horrors it perpetrated even after so many years. This is the same country that provides pensions for dreaded and listed terrorists out of state funds. This is the same country that has the dubious distinction of hosting the largest number of terrorists proscribed by the United Nations. The leader whom we heard today is the same person who referred to the terrorist Osama bin Laden as a martyr in his parliament in July. The same leader who spewed venom today admitted in 2019 in public in the US that his country still has about 30,000 to 40,000 terrorists who have been trained by Pakistan and have fought in Afghanistan and in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This is the country that has systematically cleansed its minorities, including Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, and others, through the abuse of its blasphemy laws and through forced religious conversions. For someone who professes to be a champion of Islam, this is also a country that has encouraged killing of fellow Muslims merely because they belong to a different sect or to a different region in Pakistan, and through sponsoring terrorist attacks against its neighbors. The only crowning glory that this country has to show to the world for the last 70 years is terrorism, ethnic cleansing, majoritarian fundamentalism, and clandestine nuclear trade. Mr. President, let me assert here loud and clear. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir is an integral and inalienable part of India. The rules and legislations brought in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir are strictly internal affairs of India. The only dispute left in Kashmir relates to that part of Kashmir that is still under illegal occupation of Pakistan. We call upon Pakistan to vacate all those areas that it is in illegal occupation of. What should rather be on the agenda of the United Nations is Pakistan's deep state and its unrelenting political and financial support to terrorist organizations and mercenaries which are a threat to global peace and security. The only way for Pakistan to become a normal country is to abjure its moral, financial, and material support to terrorism, turn its attention to the problems faced by its own population, including its minorities, and stop misusing UN platforms to further its nefarious agenda.
Balochistan is suffering a severe humanitarian crisis, having been in the throes of a ruthless genocidal conflict for the past 2 decades. The Pakistani army-sponsored death squads are roaming with impunity. A large number of Baloch youth has been the victim of forcible disappearances and extrajudicial killings. Thousands of them have fled to different countries in recent years. The military establishment of Pakistan and its clandestine agencies are kidnapping, torturing, and murdering activists and human rights defenders to counter the Baloch people's demand to exercise their right to self-determination. The recent killing of a student, Hayat Baloch, in Turbat testifies to that. He was brutally murdered by the Frontier Corps, while his parents were forced to watch his unfortunate fate. Madam President, considering the gravity of the situation, we request this Council to put a resolution in the Council to send a fact-finding mission to Balochistan to investigate the gross violations of human rights and subsequently make these state military officials accountable for their crimes against humanity in Balochistan.
Legally, Pakistan has no locus standi on Jammu and Kashmir. Yet, since the late 1980s, Pakistan's military establishment has used youth from Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir to join its various terrorist proxies like Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Toiba, and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Rejection of India was the slogan dictated to these youth. Islamic Caliphate and merger of Jammu and Kashmir with Pakistan, the aims. Thousands of Kashmiris who did not agree were killed by these terrorist proxies. Those who subscribed to the Indian Constitution were specifically targeted. Today, led by its foreign minister, Pakistan is demanding a return of the autonomy that Jammu and Kashmir had earlier enjoyed under the Indian Constitution. The same constitution against which it started this proxy war in which Kashmiris were massacred. Madam President, will Pakistan be allowed to get away just like that? Even after it ruptured our social fabric, ordered the killing of thousands of my fellow Kashmiris, exploited our youth as pawns in its proxy war, and was majorly responsible for getting our autonomy diluted through unleashing its terror policy. I humbly urge this Council to summon the Islamic Republic of Pakistan for an audit and hold it accountable for the destruction of my homeland.
At the same time, we are observing malevolent attempts by terrorists to exploit the financial and emotional distress caused by the lockdowns to disturb the cohesiveness of societies. The increased presence of people online and on social media has been targeted by terrorists to disseminate misinformation through hate speeches, fake news, and doctored videos. The intent has been to entice and establish links with vulnerable individuals and recruit them in their cadres. Terror groups have also exhorted supporters to target security forces and health workers. Another disturbing trend has been the collection of funds by proscribed terrorist outfits, ostensibly for undertaking charitable activities, but which in reality would be used to finance terror. Madam President, terrorism is the grossest affront to the enjoyment of inalienable human right to life and to live in peace and security. It possesses a serious threat to economic and social development, undermines democracy, and jeopardizes the rule of law. It is an attack against freedom of thought, expression, and association. While acts of terrorism violate the rights of individual victims, it also deeply affects the enjoyment of a range of rights by the families of the victims and society as a whole.